Okay, hi everybody. Before we get started, I just have about 350 announcements, not too many here. I kind of made it easy. We have a lot of workshops and programs going on here at Starting Point, so instead of me going through them all, I put them on a sheet of paper for you. And if you want a copy of the entire program itself, they're at the front desk on the way out. You can pick them up, okay? Because we do have a lot of stuff going on here, and I don't want to spend half the lecture talking about these things, okay? One program is not on here I do want to mention, and it's for the older people in here. I'm looking around. I think everybody qualifies except him. He's the only one who does. Yes, he does. No problem. Basically, we have a grant here at Starting Point to do a series of 25 workshops on opioids and the older adult. Okay, and basically, we've been going around to 55 and over communities, senior citizen centers, and we're going to do one here. So on April the 12th is a Friday at 12 noon. We're going to be doing the program here, and it's basically an understanding of opioids, an understanding of medications, an understanding of how medications affect people. And we have one of our therapists here who's put together a fantastic program telling us all about it. So basically, we'd like to invite you to come to it. We're going to do it at 12 noon, and if it works out well, we'll do an evening one too, okay, in the near future.
That's on the 12th?
12th.
12 noon and 7 p.m.?
No, just 12 o'clock for the first one. And so we're trying to get as many people out as possible. So if you can make it, fine. And we're probably going to do it in May at the 7 o'clock program at night. So to give an opportunity for people to truly understand what's really going on. Oh, they call it opioids for older adults. Well, to me, I really feel it fits all of us in one way or another. So you can kind of connect with it, okay? So we'll tell you about that. And we do have flyers out there talking about it. They're out there on the table. You can pick one up if you want to. And I'm going to try to do it one Wednesday in May. I know we have a guest speaker slot, and we'll try to do it in that slot, okay, in May. Okay. Here she comes. We're also, after the meeting tonight, we still have meditation class, but also there's a Naranon meeting tonight. Patrice, am I allowed to tell them what's going on tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
Tonight is an anniversary meeting.
Mm-hmm. One year. Our Naranon group has been here.
For 1 year. So we're having an anniversary meeting tonight. We have a guest speaker from Naranon, from another Naranon meeting, who is well seasoned. And we also have an NA speaker who's also well seasoned, 17 years sober. And they're both speaking tonight. So it's a special meeting. We have some food to
And that'll be at 8 o'clock tonight.
Yep.
Right down the end of this hall. You're welcome to stay for that too if you want to. So we invite all the Al-Anon members to go to it. Okay. Anyway, everybody can go to it, not a problem. All right. I have all the commercials. I think I covered everything. Oh, I do want to mention that we're finishing the Grief and Loss series tonight. And then next week I'll be starting the 9-week series on codependency. That's my favorite series. That's already on YouTube, so I won't have to look at this thing anymore. So I'll take care of that for a while anyway. Okay, I want to kind of start tonight by doing a reading I picked from one of my meditation books called Until Today. It really kind of fits into our topic for tonight because the reading is about death. And I'm going to talk a little bit about death tonight from a very positive point of view. March 19th. I open my heart and mind to be aware. Without death, there can be no change. Author John Roger wrote, "We're only born once into life, but we are reborn many times." He was describing the many mini-deaths we experience on our journey through life. We die to old ways of being to be reborn to our power. We die to old beliefs to be reborn to the truth. We die to habits of need, dependency, and control reborn into the reliance of our spirit. We die to fear of spirit to be reborn into the spirit of fearlessness. As long as you're still breathing, death becomes what we commonly call change. Until today, you may not have been aware of the many times you have faced death in the journey of your life, in which days can alter your state of being. Just for today, lay down your notions and fears about death and be willing to be open to the gift of change. Today I'm devoted to accepting that I must accept death in order to go through the process of change. That kind of really hit home with me yesterday when I was doing my meditation. And I really kind of want to share that with you tonight, because tonight we're going to finish the series on grief and loss. I'm going to spend primarily the time tonight talking about sadness and acceptance, the last two stages of grieving. But I really can't really talk about them unless I do bring in the concept of death. What is death? It's an ending. It's a closure. It's bringing things to a conclusion. We're very connected with physical death, but also we have emotional death and we have spiritual death. We have change that takes place in the course of our life. I've said over and over again, the greatest part of the grieving process is a part of going through change, to be open to change, to be open to new things and new directions. It's kind of exciting in a way, because you realize the fact that everything we've gone through in life, no matter what it is, we've gone through it because we were supposed to. And as a result, everything we've gone through can either be something that pulls us down or something we can face and deal with and can bring us up. It comes down to how we face it, how we deal with it. That's why when I talk about the grieving process, and I mentioned this last week, one of the things I believe in very deeply is the gift and foundation of our 12-step program. The 12 steps fundamentally, they really are a philosophy of life. They're a fundamental philosophy. But in grieving, they actually are the process of grieving. They actually show us through these steps how we go through the process of change, through the process of growth in our life. You mentioned last week the first 3 steps help us to get through that initial stage. And all of us, we're human beings, come on. None of us go through grieving easily. See, loss is something that we all go through. Even experiencing the death of someone, the closure. We get into the concept of older age. We get into we refer to them as the golden years. We get into other areas of the course of our journey in life. It means we have to let go of something else. Give an example. I never realized this in my own life, but I just realize it more and more today. There are things I could do years ago, things I could get involved in years ago, that I can't do today. And that's sad in a way. And yet at the same time, I have to come to an acceptance and come to a realization of it. You know, years ago, and I'm talking now a good 10 years ago, I was able to run up and down a basketball court, and I can, as a referee, and I could keep pace with all those young suckers going up and down that court. And guess what? I can't do that today. Isn't that amazing? God bless you. I can't do that today. And the amazing part about it is there's a sadness to that. It's a part of my life I really enjoyed, something I considered very special. But now all of a sudden, I have to let go of it. I can't go back. Because if I did, I'd probably get a visit to a doctor somewhere. It's totally amazing. I use that as an example because I think that connects to all different areas of our life. That all of us have to go through stages. We go through a growth process in the course of our life. And there's always something we've got to let go of. Be it an addiction, be it a child, be it a relationship. Everything goes through change. Everything goes through growth. Everything goes through pain. And I've learned over and over again that all growth takes place in life through struggle and takes place through sometimes forms of pain. And so many of us literally have a tendency to hold on and try to fix things and try to make things work, when in reality we can't do it. And the hardest part for us is that letting go. And that's where the steps come into play, because the first 3 steps is something that we all do in the course of our journey. We talked about that last week. Many of us get stuck in what I call the denial stage, the anger stage, and the bargaining stage. We get stuck in it because we really do think that somehow, some way, we're going to figure it out, we're going to be able to handle it, and above all, we'll be able to fix it. The hardest thing in life is the gift of acceptance. And acceptance, I'll share with you in a very powerful way, is a word I really can't share with you. Sounds strange, doesn't it? It's a word I can't explain. I wish I could. It's something you have to feel. You have to work towards. You have to come to in your life. And I'm going to tell you right now, acceptance comes with sadness. So many of us have a tendency in those first 3 steps, we see that, to be able to try to somehow get through this. Maybe it's not happening, and yet at the same time it is happening. And it's hard for us to be able to come to an admitting of something. But intellectually, yes, we can come to acceptance. But to come to acceptance in your spirit, in your heart, to work through it, to come to the other side, there's going to be sadness involved. There's going to be a change process involved. And there's also going to be watching a part of your life and a part of other people's lives come to an end. And that has to watch that process go. I'll show you an example of what I mean. I'm sure we have some mothers in here, right? Quite a few. How many moms do we have in here? All right. Now, mothers understand a lot of what I'm going to talk about tonight, because basically all of you fundamentally have carried a child inside of you. And you carry that child with a lot of love. And that child was getting ready to be born. I've shared this before. And something about a child that's in the womb, it's safe, it's comfortable, it likes being there. It's a very warm and comfortable place. There's a problem though. It keeps growing. And then it gets too big. It's got to leave. Now, the little child, I'm going to make believe it can speak. It's saying, I don't want to leave. But you got to leave. I don't want to leave. But you got to leave. There's a struggle going on. And so deep down inside, you kind of feel that struggle. You start getting some pains. Things start to happen. Cramps and things of that effect. And then all of a sudden, you go visit this doctor. And this doctor has the audacity to say, push. Now, you're pushing, that little kid on the inside is saying, hey, I ain't going out there. What are you, out of your mind? That world out there is dysfunctional. It's crazy. It's insane. You want me to leave this comfortable, beautiful place and go out there? Oh, we're going to have to struggle to do this. And so the first struggle of life takes place. To a mother, it's painful. It's a process she goes through. And the child struggles too, because the child is actually fighting and battling the whole birth process. And then finally, when it does take place, and mothers know what I mean, once you see that child, it's like the pain goes away, the struggle. But even that poor child, it finally gets out into the world, and the doctor picks it up and slaps it. Hey, I was in a nice, comfortable place, now I'm getting slapped. So as a result then, all of a sudden now I feel the struggle, I feel the pain. I'm going into a world. I'm going to have to experience things and go through things. And then that child's going to start his process of continuing to grow. And unfortunately, and yet fortunately in many ways, the world that we live in by nature is dysfunctional. And so the child has to progress into that world. It's got to go through its struggles. Now, we as family members, a lot of times, really have a wonderful path. We like to see that child go on, right? They never listen. They go their own way. They make their own mistakes, go through their own changes. Sound familiar? It's the same things we did. And so as they go through the stages of life, they've got to go through struggle. They've got to go through pain. They've got to go through their growing process. And to do that, they have to experience the process of grieving. They're grieving the fact that they got to move forward. But it's interesting. Many psychologists and people that are connected with children will tell you that at the moment of birth, little kids normally are still on the other side. They may still be here, but they're still connected to the other side. But then as they get older and older, they get more connected to the dysfunctional world in which we live. They get influenced by it. And as a result then, they go through their own wars and their own struggles. They go through their own grieving. And therefore, they've got to feel the pain of saying goodbye. But then also, they realize the fact that there'll come a day, and this now we go into old age, when they get to the moment of death. It's been said over and over again that people closer to death, physical death, usually are in touch with the other side also. I'll give you an example. My wife's mother was in a nursing home for 6 years with dementia and with Alzheimer's. And for a long period of time, she had no idea who we were. She would just sit there and stare at us. One day my wife went to visit her and came to the door of her room, and she heard her having a conversation. Now, she's never talked to anybody. She was having a full-fledged conversation like she was fully alive. She was fully alert. And so my wife listened. She was having a conversation with her sister who had died 10 years ago. They were actually conversing. And she's talking almost like she didn't have dementia, like she was normal. And I truly believe that she went to visit her sister on the other side. Her body hadn't died yet, but her spirit was already in touch with where she was going. As soon as my wife walked in, boom, right back to where she was. It's like she went right back to the world of being closed down. And I love the spiritual piece of the growth process takes place in life. So every one of us has to go through endings. We've got to go through struggles. We've got to go through loss. And there's a sadness involved in that. There's sadness in watching sometimes people take paths we don't want them to take. There's sadness in our own lives when we realize that we have to say goodbye to certain things. Even mothers go through a lot of sadness when they got to kind of say goodbye to their children and allow their children to go on their own journey. Because basically, we feel sad about that. We feel sad about pain, about struggle. And yet it's part of the journey. And that's why I really believe that every one of us at one time or another has to allow ourselves to experience change. We have to experience growth. We have to experience new dimensions in the course of our life. Guess what? Nothing stays the same. If you don't believe it, pull out some photographs of yourself when you were like 15, 20 years old and take a hard look at them. And then look in the mirror right after you look at that. My wife and I were laughing the other day. We took a look at our wedding photograph of 30 years ago. I had hair. It was interesting. It was really powerful. You know, it's amazing. I says, I did the Urkel thing. Is that me? But the thing is, it's amazing to look at life, where life takes you on different journeys in life. But see, that's the adventure of life. But I have to be able to come to an acceptance, come to a place of peace. But nobody comes to that easily. There's always a struggle involved in it. We have to fight, and we battle, because we're human. I said last week, the ultimate battle all of us are participating in is the battle between the ego and the spirit. Our ego wants us to control a situation. Our spirit is telling us to let go. So when I connect to the steps with this peace, sadness, and this piece of acceptance, I look at steps 4 through 9. Beautiful steps. Did you ever notice how powerful they are? They take you on your personal journey of life. And I learned something from the old timers in the program. You know, this past year and a half, I've had the wonderful experience of writing a lot of my memoirs, a lot of my stories. And I took the advice of some of the old timers in the program. And so I actually took a pen and I began to write. It was like doing a gigantic inventory, going from my childhood right on up. And what I found so powerful was, as I was writing, more and more memories start coming back to me. Things began to focus. Things began to see. I began to be able to look at things in my life I had totally forgotten about. And I'm learning over and over again, the more I write, the more I put stuff down, the more stuff comes back up. It's almost therapeutic. It's just unbelievable. And I've learned through that 4th step to be able to write about your life. Your life is the greatest adventure on the face of this earth. Your life is yours. Don't be afraid of who you are. We've all gone through stuff in our life. Thank God that we did. And some of that stuff was dysfunctional. Some of it was insane. But everything you went through, we were supposed to go through to bring us to the gift of acceptance, to the gift of growth. It's amazing. We had to go through this process. See, there's no easy way. I wish there was. Wish I could put this on a platter and hand it to you. I can't. You just got to do it. And what I realized over and over again through that fourth step, when you're able to totally get in touch with your history and realize who you are and begin to meet yourself as a person, then you get the gift of being able to share it. Now, I can realize in my own life, my therapist worked with me for a long period of time to open up the doors to many memories in my life. And a lot of the things he opened up, I don't want to deal with, I'll be honest with you. I kept them hidden for a long time. And the priesthood for me was a great hiding place to keep them hidden. But when I began to crack the door and open the door and begin to get in touch with stuff, I never realized how many things I had kept buried inside of me as a person. Why? I was afraid to look at them. And now, it's so much freeing to be able to share them, to talk about them. It's such a gift, the fourth and fifth step, to help you really get in touch with, to open up, to clean the inside of you out and begin to really meet things in the course of your journey. This is who we are. It's part of who we are. And there's just sadness to it, too, because I look back on my life and I went through some things that probably, if I had known what I know today, I probably wouldn't have went through them. But guess what? I wouldn't have known anyway, so I went through them. It's all part of the journey. And as a result, then, I realized over and over again, it's okay to heal yourself, to forgive yourself, and not to beat yourself up anymore. Everything you went through in life, you were supposed to go through. Isn't that amazing? That's what leads us to the gift of acceptance. When I'm able to look at life and say, wow, look at the great lessons that have been presented to me. If I can be open and learn from them. But there's so much in our life that we've got to do closure with. We've got to say goodbye to. Because we're scared. It's much easier to hold on to it. But to be able to feel the sadness. Here's the part that's the hardest part about the grieving process. Sadness is something you have to feel. You're watching a part of your journey come to an end. You're going through a process of saying goodbye. You're going through a process of closure. I can take this in a lot of different directions, that death process we talked about. You can look at it through different situations in your own personal life. It can be the ending of a relationship, doing closure, saying goodbye. So many of us try to keep it open all the time because we don't want to accept the reality of what is. It can be saying goodbye to an addiction, because many of us have built a relationship with addiction for a long period of time. Now we have to actually give it permission to die. We have to say goodbye to it. It's like doing a funeral. It's releasing a part of me that was part of my journey and part of my teachable moment. But it's time to say goodbye. It's time to move on. It's time to move in a new direction in the course of my life. And yet what gets in our way all the time is this thing up here. We're constantly trying to figure it out. Do me a favor. You ever figure life out, call me. I want to be your manager and take you on tour. You're not going to figure it out. It's just a process we have to go through. Step 6 and 7 tells us to get in touch with our defects of character, to get in touch with our humanness, our humanity, the fact that we all have wonderful defects of character. Isn't it wonderful? It's nice to be a human being. Steps 8 and 9 tell us to make peace, to make settlement, to make amends, to put things to rest. And then the last 3 steps teach us what acceptance really is all about. It's about prayer and meditation. It's about being open. It's about change. It's about growth. You know, I try to explain it, but I can't. When do you come to acceptance? You'll know. You know when you'll know? Because you will feel the energy of peace inside of yourself. You'll feel serenity. You'll feel calmness inside of you. And we all come to that at one time or another. It's like you look at your life and say, wow, isn't it great that we're able to go through this? I always say there's 4 beautiful spiritual words, and I consider them to be ultimate spiritual words. And to me, if we can meet them and make them become part of our journey, then we'll be able to grow. One of my favorite spiritual words is, you heard me tell you before, it's fertilizer. I love fertilizer because it comes from crap. And what a wonderful thing is if I have the guts, here's steps 4 through 9 again. If I can process my crap, then it becomes gold. It becomes my teacher. It becomes my lessons. It becomes the things I learn. Don't be afraid of that. Whatever you went through, there's the second spiritual word, actually the next 2 spiritual words. Supposed to. Whatever you went through, you were supposed to go through. What do we do a lot of times? We play that shoulda, coulda, woulda game. Don't play it, please. You know, we got to go through it. And the bottom line is real simple. Whatever we experience, whatever we go through, even death, even losses, stuff to that effect, it's all part of the process. I use the example, you know, I started a cousins reunion a long time ago. When we started the cousins reunion, we have 15 cousins. We had it this past Christmas, and guess what? We had 5. The other 10 have moved on to another journey. They've passed into another life. And every year, what do? We spend a lot of time talking about the 10 that have moved on, going back through memories and things that have happened. We bring them back for the reunion. We bring them back in spirit. Bring them back in memory. People have lost people in the course of their journey. Some people die young. Some die older. We have no control over that. We have no concept. We lose people to addiction. We lose people to different types of things in the course of life because their journey time has come to an end. The hardest part for us is acceptance, saying goodbye, doing closure. And that's not something you do automatically. There's a lot of pain involved in it. There's a sadness involved in it. You know, even sometimes in our struggle, you know, with people that are in recovery and we like them to move faster than they're moving. And they don't listen. Is that amazing? Because they're not ready to, and that's okay too. Everything takes place in God's time, not in our time. And that last spiritual word, the ultimate of all spiritual words, is right in the big book of AA. The powerful, powerful gift of acceptance. Acceptance. Coming to acceptance is to come to peace. Is to come to serenity. Is to come to calmness. Is to come to a gentle, beautiful place in the course of your journey in life. And you know, God, I get so frustrated because I wish I could explain it. I can't. I can feel it. I can be in touch with it. And I realize more and more now that it's becoming a much more peaceful thing for me in the course of my journey. But you'll come to it, don't worry. In God's time, you'll be able to work through whatever you have to work through in life, because I really believe today, if you have faith, you have trust, and you believe, and you're open, eventually all things work where they're supposed to work, and they go where they're supposed to go. And the only problem is the hardest and toughest person we have in the course of our journey in life is ourselves. We are our own worst enemy. We constantly stop the process. We're frustrated. Why? Because we're human. We're supposed to. See how that works? And so nobody goes through this cleanly. You know, I tell people over and over again, first of all, you can't go through the grieving process alone and by yourself. You need support. You need people around you to help you go through the process of change and the process of growth. We're not islands. We can't do it alone. Secondly, we need to be able to share, to be connected with others, because we're going to go through the battles and the fights and the struggles. But know that somehow, some way, we'll be led where we're supposed to be led. But the hardest part about the grieving process is patience. A normal grieving process takes place anywhere from 18 months up to about 3 years. And for some people, it's even longer. It's all part of the process we all go through in life. But sadness, loss, is part of our journey. And being able to say goodbye is the hardest part of our journey. Because I'm going to tell you right now, until we're able to say goodbye, we can't say hello. What keeps us stuck a lot of times is all the old stuff, the old garbage we keep buried inside of ourselves. And once you're able to open that up and learn from it and grow from it, It takes you to another whole level, another whole direction in life. And so many of us got to do it the hard way. You know, I told you last week and a week before that, we have that Italian disease called uncapitosa. It means we're brickheads. We got to do it the hard way first. We got to struggle, we got to battle, we got to figure it out, we got to analyze it, we got to do this. I got to find the answer, I got to find the thing, I got to go there. Good God. And we got to get sick and tired of being sick and tired. We got to get to the point where, okay, I got to let go. That third step is the toughest step in the program, to let go and to release it and give it to God. You know, I posted on Facebook this morning, I enjoy doing it a lot, and I posted on air about one of my favorite little quotations, and it says, you're on a journey. God's the driver. Stop being a backseat driver. He knows where he's going. Leave him alone. But see, what we do all the time is we're going to drive from the back seat. We don't have control of the wheel. And yet, what do? We got the answers to everything. We don't even know the damn questions, but we got the answers to them. It's amazing, isn't it? And then basically, we're going to be able to control a situation that we can't control. Try controlling another human being. You want to head it? Go ahead. You're not going to do it. All we can do is be open to the journey and realize the fact that the greatest other spiritual word is the word change. Everything in life is in process of changing. Nothing stays the same. Even if you're in recovery, I hope to God your recovery is in process. It's changing. Nothing just stays in one spot. It's not supposed to. Change is part of the journey. And that's what happens to us a lot of times. We keep looking for utopia. And there is none. There's just today. You do the best you can. If you learn that much today, my old sponsor used to say that to me every day. He'd say, if you grow that much today, you've made progress. And he said, that's enough. Stop. Codependents try to grow that much every day. Addicts want to grow that much every day. Because I want answers. You know, I'm in recovery now. I got it. What do you got? You got nothing. You got today. Like the rest of us do. See, there's no magic. You know, and people got to fight. They got to battle because they want basically to be in control of a situation. But why do you want to be in control? It's so much fun just to go with the flow. Let the higher power take you where you're supposed to go. Have faith and have trust. And the grieving process is exactly that. It's a way of life for every one of us. And we're going to go through grieving no matter what. Because we go through the different stages. I often say we go through a stage of grieving every 10 years. It's called aging. It's wonderful, isn't it? You know, you get ready for the next one and the next one. And eventually you come to that point where you got to say goodbye. And then you go to another stage and start all over again. Isn't that wonderful? When you're 18, you think that 40 is old. When you're 40, you think that 60 is old. When you're 60, you think that 80 is old. When you're 80, you don't know what the hell you're talking about anyway. Because then you think 100 is old. Then if you make 100, you made it, kid. Don't worry about it. But you know, the other thing I always say about the journey and the grieving process is this. It may sound strange, but I got to say it. Sometimes you just have to laugh at life, even when it's not funny. And sometimes you have to grieve. You have to feel. You got to go through changes. And we all do that. You know, we've seen the loss of things in our life. I've experienced this so many times. I've had the honor and the privilege of being at the deathbed of many people as they left this world, as they said goodbye. You know, and to me, that it's one of the strongest moments of their life. It's funny how that works, because they're releasing their spirit. They're moving to another dimension. And many of us are scared of what's happening to them because we don't want it to happen. And yet sometimes it does. And as a result then, sooner or later, all of us have to make that journey. And yet, while we're on this earth, like the reading said tonight, we have to experience the death process every day of our life. We're always saying goodbye to something. I mean, I say this, the death process takes place every morning when you wake up. You go in the bathroom, you look in the mirror. That's the beginning of the death process for the day. You're a day older. Yesterday is done. Now you're going to start over again. And then you look in that mirror and you say, who's that? And then you get started for the day. And then typical, this is a crazy analogy because undertakers do it. They make you up. And what do? We make ourselves up for the day. Make sure we look right and everything else, and here we go. And then basically the next day comes and now we look right by, oh, there's nothing up there anymore. Now I got to do something else with it. Then we make another change. But we're constantly in this process of changing, of growing, of experiencing. To me, I consider this now the adventure of life. We don't know a thing about tomorrow. Isn't it wonderful? Not a thing. Will you wake up tomorrow morning? We'll hope so. If you don't, well, you didn't. And yet it's all about it. I do it every night before I go to bed. I say, God, good night. Had a great day. You sent me a lot of teachers in my life today. Thank you for them. I'm saying good night to you. If I happen to wake up tomorrow morning, I'll say good morning. If not, I'll catch you out on the other side. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Then you close your eyes, you go to sleep. But you know what's so scary and beautiful about that? Every time you go to sleep, you just don't know. You wake up in the morning and you say, wow, I'm awake. Thank you. Gratitude. And then you basically begin the day. That's where the 11th step comes into play. The 10th step comes into play. The 12th step comes into play. You begin the day with prayer, with meditation. You fill the most important part of yourself. You fill your soul. And you say, thank you for the gift of another day. Thank you for this day. If you have aches and pains, maybe there'll come a day you'll say, thank you for the aches and pains. They're teaching you something that you're able to handle and deal with in life. A friend of mine who is a beautiful gentleman, I met him told you this story before, at the Naval Hospital years ago. And he was a guy that was in the Navy. He lost both his legs and both his arms in the war. And basically that had him in a special wheelchair. One of the happiest guy I ever met in my life. He would run around the hospital carrying a message of hope to other people, where he could be in a real pity trip. But he told me he wasn't a pity trip at one time. He went through his changes. But he came to acceptance of who he was and what he's doing. And that's what that 12th step is really all about. When you come to a sense of peace within your own self, then you can share that gift with others. You can open up your heart and share the gift with those that you meet, no matter where you meet them. And maybe somehow, some way, you'll plant a seed. Maybe somehow, some way, you'll touch another human being. But you never know. You never know where it's going to go, what's going to happen, where things take you. Life is such a wonderful journey, you never know. And that's what it's really all about. And so I guess when I'm talking about the grieving process, I'm talking about life. And life is such a gift. It's something to look at through precious eyes. It's something to be thankful for. And I know that we experience things going on in our life where people may not appreciate this till later on, after they go through their struggles and their pain. And I say this to families especially because I do a lot of family education programs in the field of addiction. And families have a hard time letting go because they have this thing where they want to fix somebody. You can't fix, I'm sorry. And how do we all learn our lessons? We learn them through struggle, we learn them through pain. I've learned a long time ago, if I work for something and I struggle for it, it means something to me. If somebody does it for me, it means nothing. I got to earn it. And life has to be earned. It's a journey. We have scars, we have badges. And as you get older, you begin to realize you have badges of honor. You've been through a lot. You've been through so many things. I do a lot of inventory now in my own life, and I look back on my parents, and I thank God for them every day. Want to know why? I could not have gone through what they went through. I look back on what they went through on their journey. My father with the First World War in the Italian cavalry. My father getting on a boat, not even able to speak English. My mother's name tagged on him. He had to marry this lady, didn't even know her. Isn't that amazing? You come right down to it. Then come to a city like Camden, get a job, and try to survive. and come through all these things, then the depression, then all these other things that went through, you know, and good God, he came through it, and you know what? He always smiled. He used to tell me all the time, he said, hey, you're alive, aren't you? What's your problem? You know, he says, don't worry about it. Everything's okay. You know, and the little things of life I learned from him. He used to teach me all the time. He said, don't be afraid, Wayon. Little boy, he said, don't be afraid to fall down. You'll learn how to get up. Don't worry about it. Little things he used to say all the time. And I looked at him and I said, how'd you do it, Pop? How'd you do it? He said, I did it. I said, what do you mean? He said, I just did it. He said, all of us in life, guess what? You look back on your own history. How'd you get through some of the things you got through in your life? When I wrote my memoirs and went through some of my stories of my past, I said, wow, if I had known me back then, I probably would have ran away from me. It's totally amazing. But I realized today, you know, I went through the stuff I went through when I had to go through it, and the stuff I did and I experienced what I was supposed to. That's that supposed to thing again. So don't be so hard on yourself. Take a break, okay? You're on a journey. Does it go the way you think it should go? No. God's a pain. He really is. And I say this every day. It's the thing I want to just close with today. The 11th step, the most powerful, beautiful step in the program. And the 11th step prayer, the most beautiful prayer. But it's the most dangerous prayer on the face of the earth. Because every day you get on your knees and you say, hey, God, whatever you have in store for me, your will, not mine. You know how powerful that is? Do you really understand what you're saying? You're saying, I'm going to walk the journey of this day, and whatever you have in store for me, I'll try to deal with it. And then you move forward. I'm a codependent. Many of us in this room, I see a lot of car carrying codependents in this room, not a problem. I have a wonderful scheduling book. But you know what? God's a pain. He screws it up every day. Nothing always goes the way it's supposed to go. Everything changes. Isn't that amazing? Why? Because it's supposed to. I told God that whatever's going to happen today, he sent me all of you. It's fantastic. He sent me all you crazy people to deal with today. It's totally amazing. You come right down to it. Isn't it fun? We're all crazy in one way or another. Isn't it the fun part of life? And so try to realize grieving is part of life. Grieving is simply saying goodbye and saying hello. Grieving is doing closure. Grieving is watching your children get bigger and watching them grow. You know, I was looking at that today. My grandson, my oldest, when he was born was 1 pound, 13 ounces. I held him in my hand. He was transparent. Amazing, it really was. And I was with him through his whole stint in the hospital. And to watch him change. And guess what, in July, I'm going to his wedding. He's getting married, my oldest grandson. 24 years old, he's getting married. And he looks like a mountain man now, lives in Montana. I think he one of those crazy movies you see on TV with the beard, the whole, oh my God, where'd you come from? And he's about this tall, you know, that little thing I held in my hand. That's what we call growth, we call change. And now I'm going to experience him getting married. Wow. You know, how'd you do that? Well, see, guess what? It's part of the journey. And so look at your life. Be proud of it. Celebrate it. Celebrate who you are. Celebrate where you are. Celebrate the moment. We're not accidents. We're not mistakes. We're exactly who we are supposed to be. The people in our life are the ones that are supposed to be in our life. Now, do they drive you insane? Do they make you crazy sometimes? Yeah. They're supposed to. To make you become stronger and be able to deal with the things you have to deal with. That's why they do that to you. That's why, you know, raising kids is an adventure. It's a first-class adventure. Because you know what's so beautiful about it is? They're all going to do things differently. You know, my wife and I talk about this all the time. We have 3 girls. They're all going different ways and different directions, and they're all going directions we never thought they'd ever go. And they went. What can I tell you? You know, do I agree with everything they do? You gotta be crazy. But you know what? It's their stuff. And that's part of their journey. It's part of their learning process they got to go through. And who knows what it's going to be? I don't know. Nobody does. Just work on ourselves and keep it simple, okay? So I want to follow up the series on grief and loss. And I just want to let you know that once we complete this series today, we're going to put the addiction series and the grief series on YouTube. So it will be available. Okay, probably in about a week and a half, we'll have it all hooked up in place. We're waiting for this one to be done today. But next week, we'll start the 9-week series on codependency. And it's my favorite series to do. I really enjoy it. So come on out and join us. I have a lot of fun with it. But that whole series is on YouTube. So you can check it out there if you happen to miss one here in that direction. Once again, a reminder, you're welcome to stay for the meditation class afterwards. And Narayan's celebrating their anniversary tonight. And I see your guest speaker has arrived. She's hiding back there. Okay? That's one of the speakers tonight, so you can come and join us. Okay? But come and celebrate, because I think it's good to celebrate the 1-year anniversary. It's pretty fantastic. So thank you for coming out. We have a way to be closed. Can we join hands and we'll say the Serenity Prayer? Oops. I forget that I'm wired.